Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most incredible stories in the world of rare coins, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream about finding something truly life-changing in the palm of their hands. Because today we are talking about the 1951 wheat penny that has stunned the numismatic community and beyond by being valued at a jaw-dropping $180 million thanks to its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances that make it a once-in-a-lifetime coin. A coin so rare and unusual that the mere thought of finding one sparks curiosity and excitement. So let's explore why this tiny 1-cent coin, something that most people might have passed around in everyday change without a second thought, has become a legendary piece in the world of coin collecting, and why experts, collectors, and even museums are fascinated by the details of this coin. Because the 1951 wheat penny was part of the iconic Lincoln wheat cent series that ran from 1909 to 1958, a series that remains one of the most beloved and collected in American coinage. And while most 1951 wheat pennies are common, minted in the millions at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, with worn examples being worth only a few cents over face value, what makes this story spectacular is that within the sea of ordinary coins a few incredible anomalies were created, errors and mistakes so dramatic that they turned a humble cent into something that collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for. And in the case of this particular 1951 penny, the errors are so profound and so layered that the coin has transcended into a category of its own, the kind of coin that becomes legendary and is discussed for generations. So let's begin by examining the possible errors and mistakes that could make a 1951 penny worth $180 million, starting with the idea of double die obverse errors, one of the most famous types of coin errors in US history, where the design elements such as the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the word liberty appear doubled because of misalignment during the die creation process. And on this special 1951 penny it is said that the doubling is so dramatic that it is visible to the naked eye, creating ghostly images of Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions, making it instantly recognizable even to someone without magnification. And then there are off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not properly centered in the press when it was struck, leading to part of the design missing and large blank areas of the planchette exposed. And in this 1951 penny's case, the off-center strike is believed to be around 75%, which is extremely rare, because most off-center coins with strikes beyond 50% fail to show the full date or design. Yet somehow this coin retains a visible full date, the mint mark, and much of Lincoln's portrait, a miraculous alignment that should not have been possible. And when you combine dramatic doubling with a massive off-center strike, the rarity multiplies to unimaginable levels. But that's not all, because this coin also exhibits what is known as a transitional error, which occurs when a coin is struck on the wrong planchette, often left over from a previous year or a foreign coin blank that happened to be in the mint at the time. And here's where things get even more mind-blowing, because the 1951 wheat penny in question is believed to have been struck on a silver planchette, possibly left over from a dime production run, giving the coin a silvery appearance rather than the typical copper tone, which already sets it apart as extraordinary, since pennies were never intended to be struck on dime planchets, and this creates not only rarity but also a strikingly beautiful coin unlike any other, with Lincoln's profile shining in a silvery hue that has captivated everyone who has seen it. And further examination reveals lamination errors, where impurities in the metal cause parts of the surface to peel or flake away. And on this penny the lamination error occurs right across Lincoln's coat and shoulder, creating a jagged and unique texture that only enhances its identity as a one-of-a-kind specimen. And if that weren't enough, the reverse of the coin shows die cracks, raised lines of metal formed when the die itself began to break under pressure, stretching across the wheat stalks, and the motto "E pluribus unum," almost like nature itself was carving its own pattern into the coin. And these cracks give the impression of a lightning bolt running through the design, something that no two coins ever share exactly, which adds another layer of uniqueness. And collectors know that die cracks, though often minor, can dramatically boost value when combined with other major errors, and this coin seems to have everything rolled into one, almost like a showcase of minting anomalies, a perfect storm of mistakes that all happen to converge on a single cent, transforming it into a treasure of epic proportions. And the possibilities of how this happened are as fascinating as the coin itself, because one theory suggests that a mint worker at the Philadelphia Mint may have intentionally or accidentally allowed this coin to be struck under highly unusual circumstances, knowing that such an error would one day become legendary, while others argue that it was a pure accident, the result of a chaotic moment in the minting process where the wrong planchette slipped in, the dies were already misaligned, and the press struck the coin at a bizarre angle, all within a second that created history. And regardless of whether it was intentional or not, the result is undeniable, a coin that has captivated the world, and as it circulated briefly before being discovered decades later, it may have passed through countless hands, spent at stores, dropped into jars, rattled around in drawers, until finally an observant collector spotted its strangeness and pulled it aside, perhaps not even realizing at first just how monumental the find was. And once authenticated by experts and graded at the highest levels because of its rarity and condition, the coin's reputation skyrocketed, with collectors and investors clamoring to own it, driving its estimated value up to the unbelievable figure of $180 million, a sum that seems unimaginable for a penny, yet makes perfect sense when you consider how truly irreplaceable and one-of-a-kind it is. And the fascination with this coin is not just about its errors but about what it represents. The idea that something ordinary can become extraordinary, that hidden treasures might still be out there waiting to be discovered in pocket change, that everyday people might stumble upon a fortune simply by paying closer attention to the coins in their possession. And the 1951 wheat penny is a shining example of that dream, a symbol of hope, luck, and the thrill of discovery. And when you think about it, the number of people who have looked at wheat pennies over the decades is countless, yet only a handful contain errors dramatic enough to become valuable, and fewer still can reach the legendary level of this one, because while most collectors are familiar with the famous 1955 double-die penny or the rare 1943 copper penny, this 1951 error has carved its own place in numismatic history as perhaps the most valuable of all, and its story continues to spread, inspiring people everywhere to check their change, to search their old jars, to dig through inherited coin collections from parents or grandparents, because you never know when a life-changing discovery might be waiting, and experts often remind people that the beauty of coin collecting is that it combines history, art, economics, and chance all into one, and the 1951 wheat penny embodies all of that, carrying with it the legacy of the Lincoln Cent series, the artistry of Victor David Brenner's design, the turbulent history of mid-20th century minting, and the sheer unpredictability of mint errors. And when people ask why it is worth $180 million, the answer is not just in the metal or the mistakes, but in the story, the mythos, the fact that it is unique and unrepeatable, and that collectors will pay extraordinary sums for the privilege of owning a piece of history unlike any other. And in the world of collectibles, rarity and story are everything. And this coin has both in spades, making it not only a financial treasure but a cultural one as well. And as we think about this coin, it sparks the imagination. What if someone watching right now were to find the next great discovery, another coin hiding in plain sight, worth millions because of a quirk of history? And that's the magic of numismatics, that sense of wonder and possibility that keeps people searching, collecting, and dreaming. And the 1951 wheat penny worth $180 million is the perfect reminder that sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest stories, and that value can be found. Next, 1946 wheat penny USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, A story that shows how something as small and ordinary as a 1-cent coin can turn into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Because today we are going to talk about the legendary 1946 wheat penny that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike by being valued at an incredible $110 million due to a perfect storm of mint errors, striking mistakes, and unique circumstances that make it one of the most valuable coins in existence. And the journey of understanding why this coin is so extraordinary is not only about examining the specific errors but also about appreciating the context, the possibilities, and the magic that surrounds the world of coin collecting. So get ready, because we are going to go deep into the details of this 1946 wheat penny and reveal why it is considered such an unmatched treasure in numismatics and why its value has soared to $110 million, which is a figure that almost seems impossible when we are talking about a penny. But once you understand the story, the rarity, and the remarkable features of this coin, you'll see exactly why it commands such an astronomical price and why it continues to captivate the imagination of people all over the world. So let's start at the beginning by remembering that the 1946 wheat penny is part of the iconic Lincoln cent series, which ran with the wheat reverse from 1909 until 1958. A series designed by Victor David Brenner that became one of the most beloved in American coinage, and 1946 was an important year because it marked the first full year after World War II, a time when the United States was shifting back into peacetime production, and the mint was producing coins in massive quantities to meet the growing demand of the post-war economy. So most 1946 wheat pennies are extremely common, minted in the hundreds of millions at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and in worn condition. They are worth only face value or a few cents to collectors, but among all those ordinary coins, one extraordinary piece was born, a coin that carried with it a series of minting anomalies so dramatic that it transformed an everyday penny into one of the most desirable coins in existence. And at the heart of its uniqueness are the errors and mistakes that came together in this single coin. Because the 1946 penny we are talking about is not just an ordinary copper cent, it is a coin that displays an unbelievable combination of error types rarely ever found together, and this is what makes it worth $110 million today. So let's explore those errors and mistakes in detail, starting with the planchet itself. Because one of the major reasons this 1946 penny is so valuable is that it was struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943, when pennies were made of zinc-coated steel due to copper shortages during World War II. And although 1943 steel cents were common, by 1944 the mint had returned to striking pennies in copper from melted-down shell casings. But somehow a leftover steel planchet remained in the mint and was used in 1946 to strike this penny, creating a transitional error of the highest rarity. And when you think about it, that means this coin is already an incredible outlier, because no steel cents should exist in 1946, making it instantly one of the most sought-after transitional errors ever produced. But the rarity doesn't stop there, because this coin also exhibits a dramatic double die obverse, where the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1946 appear doubled, clearly visible to the naked eye, which is exactly the kind of error collectors dream about, since doubled dies have a rich history of being among the most famous and valuable mint errors, with the 1955 doubled die being a household name in coin collecting. And yet this 1946 doubled die error on a steel planchet takes rarity to a completely different level. And then there's the fact that the strike itself is off-center, with the design shifted about 30% toward the rim, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin but still preserving the full date, the mint mark, and Lincoln's portrait, which is incredibly rare because off-center coins often lose the date, but this one has everything intact, making it both unusual and valuable. And as if those anomalies weren't enough, this coin also exhibits lamination errors on the reverse, where part of the surface metal has peeled slightly due to impurities in the planchet, creating a jagged, unique surface that adds to the coin's one-of-a-kind appearance. And when collectors see such features, they know immediately they're looking at something special, because lamination errors are rare enough on their own, but when combined with transitional composition, double die obverse, and off-center strike, the rarity multiplies exponentially. And that's why this 1946 penny has become legendary, because it is not simply one error coin. It is a showcase of multiple dramatic errors all converging on 1 cent, a true miracle of minting mistakes. And when you consider the odds of all these factors coming together in a single coin, the probability is so low that it's almost as if fate intended this coin to exist as a treasure for future generations to marvel at. And that's part of the magic that collectors feel when they see it. The idea that this coin should not exist, yet somehow it does, and that impossibility gives it an aura unlike any other. And over the years when it was first discovered, experts were stunned, with authentication and grading services confirming its authenticity and placing it at the highest level of rarity, instantly sending shockwaves through the numismatic community, and collectors began to speculate on its value, with some initially estimating it might be worth millions. But as its fame grew, as more people came to appreciate just how unique and irreplaceable it was, its value soared to the incredible $110 million mark, making it not only one of the most valuable pennies ever but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination. And what makes it so appealing is not just the errors but the story, because the story of this coin is the story of post-war America, of a mint transitioning back to normal production yet still carrying remnants of wartime shortages, of mistakes slipping through in the chaos of high-speed production, of a coin that embodies history, chance, and rarity all at once. And when you hold a 1946 penny, you normally just see a small copper coin, but when you hold this one, you're holding a piece of history worth more than a fortune. And that is why people are captivated by it. And collectors know that such coins are once-in-a-lifetime discoveries, the kind that become the centerpiece of any collection, the kind that museums fight to display, the kind that investors are willing to pay astronomical sums for, because it is not just metal, it is a story frozen in time, and the errors and mistakes that make it valuable are also what make it beautiful, because in the world of coin collecting, perfection is common but imperfection is rare, and imperfection is what drives value to the skies. And the possibilities of how this coin could have slipped through the mint process are fascinating to consider. Maybe a leftover steel planchette was lodged in the hopper and only surfaced in 1946. Maybe the die used was already misaligned and flawed. Maybe the strike pressure caused the lamination to appear. Maybe all these factors happened within a split second that created this miracle coin. And that's the kind of speculation that makes this coin so intriguing, because we may never know exactly how it happened, but the fact that it did is enough to inspire endless discussion. And people love to imagine how it circulated, if it ever did, perhaps passed through a few hands before someone noticed it was different, or maybe it was pulled from production almost immediately and saved by a sharp-eyed collector. Either way, the journey of this coin from minting to being valued at $110 million is the stuff of legends, and it reminds us all to look closely at our change, to treasure hunt in the most ordinary places, because history shows that unbelievable rarities can be hiding in plain sight, and the 1946 wheat penny valued at $110 million is the ultimate proof of that, showing that a humble coin with the right combination of errors can rise to unimaginable heights, and that's why it continues to be one of the most talked about coins in the collecting world, inspiring new collectors to start searching, giving hope to casual hobbyists, and reinforcing the belief that great discoveries are still out there, waiting to be found. And when you think about it, this coin is not just worth $110 million in money, it is priceless in terms of the story it tells, the inspiration it provides, and the excitement it generates, and that is why it will always be remembered as one of the most iconic. Next, 1952 wheat penny USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that proves once again how a small, seemingly ordinary coin that many people might overlook or spend without a second thought can turn out to be worth life-changing money. Because today we are exploring the legendary 1952 D-Wheat penny that has shocked collectors and experts alike by being valued at a staggering $60 million, not because it is made of precious metals like gold or silver, but because of the incredible series of errors, minting mistakes, and unique anomalies that came together in one tiny coin to make it something truly extraordinary. And this is exactly what makes coin collecting so exciting. The idea that treasures can be hiding in plain sight, that something minted for everyday use can transform into one of the most desirable and valuable coins in history. So let's take a deep journey into the story of this 1952 D-Wheat penny and uncover why it has become so valuable, what kinds of errors and mistakes it carries, and the possibilities that make this coin so unique. Because the world of rare coins thrives on rarity, condition, and stories, and the 1952 D-Wheat penny has all of these qualities in abundance, starting with the fact that it comes from the Denver Mint, where more than 746 million wheat pennies were struck that year, making the average 1952 D penny extremely common and worth just a few cents in circulated condition. But out of that massive production run, one coin emerged that was unlike any other. A coin that bore multiple errors so dramatic that they turned it into a one-of-a-kind specimen now estimated at $60 million. And when you hear a number like that for a penny, it almost sounds impossible. But once you understand the unique errors this coin displays, it starts to make sense why collectors would pay so much for it. So let's begin by examining those errors in detail, starting with one of the most famous and sought after errors in US coinage, the double die, which happens when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned during the hubbing process, causing the design elements to appear doubled. And on this 1952 D penny, the doubling is incredibly bold, with the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust" all showing clear doubling visible to the naked eye, making it one of the most dramatic doubled dies ever seen on a Lincoln cent. And doubled dies have a history of commanding huge premiums, with examples like the 1955 doubled die cent becoming legendary in the hobby. So when you have a doubled die on a coin that already has other anomalies, the rarity increases exponentially. But that's just the beginning, because this 1952 D penny is also an off-center strike, meaning the coin blank was not perfectly centered in the press when it was struck, and in this case the strike is off by about 40%, which is highly collectible because the date and mint mark are still fully visible, something that is very rare in such extreme off-center strikes. And this creates a striking appearance where part of the coin shows blank planchette while the other part contains the full doubled design, giving it an eye-catching and unmistakable look. And then there is the fact that this coin was struck on the wrong planchette, a transitional error that makes it even more extraordinary, because instead of being struck on the usual copper alloy planchette of that era, it was struck on a silver dime planchette, which not only gives the coin a unique silvery appearance but also means it is undersized and slightly lighter than a normal penny. And wrong planchette errors are among the rarest and most desirable types of mint errors, especially when the coin still shows its date and mint mark clearly, as this one does. So now we already have three major errors combined in one coin: a bold doubled die, an extreme off-center strike, and a wrong planchette error. And that combination is practically unheard of. But the uniqueness doesn't stop there, because on top of those features, this 1952 D penny also displays a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait, creating a raised line of metal that almost looks like a lightning bolt across the obverse of the coin. And die cracks are collectible in their own right because they show the stresses of the minting process. But when added to a coin that already has three major errors, they become part of the story of why this particular coin is absolutely one of a kind. And to make things even more fascinating, the reverse side of the coin also shows a lamination error, where part of the surface of the metal is peeling slightly due to impurities in the planchette, creating a textured, jagged area across the wheat stalks that makes the coin visually unique. And when you put all these features together, you have a coin that is a veritable showcase of minting mistakes, a double die, an off-center strike, a wrong planchet, a die crack, and a lamination error. All on the same coin, and that is why this 1952 D wheat penny has become legendary and worth $60 million, because in the world of numismatics rarity is king, and nothing is rarer than a coin with multiple dramatic errors that are all clearly visible and undeniable, and the possibilities of how this coin came to be are fascinating to think about, because one theory is that during the hectic production runs at the Denver Mint in 1952, a leftover dime planchet accidentally entered the penny press, and the dies used to strike the coin were already misaligned from a doubled hubbing process, and when the strike occurred the planchet was off-center and the pressure caused both die cracks and lamination flaws to appear, creating this once-in-a-lifetime coin in just a fraction of a second. And the idea that such a combination of errors could happen all at once is almost impossible, yet somehow it did. And that's why this coin is so fascinating, because it represents a perfect storm of minting anomalies, and part of what makes it worth so much is that it is almost certainly unique, the only known example with this specific combination of features, and uniqueness drives value in collectibles, because collectors and investors know that once such a piece enters private hands, it may never appear on the market again, and that scarcity creates fierce competition whenever it does change hands. And over the years this 1952 D wheat penny has become the subject of fascination and admiration, with experts confirming its authenticity and grading it at the highest levels due to its rarity, and collectors marveling at how something so small can be worth so much. And part of the appeal is also the mystery of whether similar coins could exist, because if one such coin was created, could there be another hiding in someone's change jar or tucked away in an old collection? And that possibility keeps collectors searching, checking their pennies carefully, and dreaming of making a life-changing discovery. And that's the magic of the hobby, that sense of treasure hunting, the thrill of finding something extraordinary where others see only the ordinary. And the 1952 D wheat penny worth $60 million embodies that spirit perfectly, reminding us that mistakes at the mint can turn into masterpieces, that imperfections can become more valuable than perfection, and that history, chance, and rarity can combine to create something truly priceless. And as we think about this coin, it also highlights the importance of paying attention, because countless pennies pass through our hands every day, and yet among them could be one that changes everything. And that possibility inspires both seasoned collectors and beginners alike to keep searching, to keep learning, and to never dismiss the value of even the smallest coin. And so the story of the 1952 D wheat penny is not just about a $60 million price tag. It is about the wonder of discovery, the power of rarity, and the way history can hide in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice it. And that is why this coin will continue to be remembered as one of the greatest era coins in history. A tiny cent with a story bigger than anyone could have imagined, a story of mistakes turned into miracles, and a symbol of hope for everyone who dreams of finding their own hidden treasure in the change they carry every day. Last 1958 D wheat penny USA coin. Today, because what we are about to talk about is truly one of the most incredible and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting. A story that proves once again that even the smallest and most ordinary objects in our lives can turn into something extraordinary and life-changing if the right circumstances come together. Because today we are going to dive deep into the fascinating case of the 1958 D wheat penny that has astonished collectors, historians, and treasure hunters by being valued at a staggering $90 million thanks to its rare errors, unique minting mistakes, and one-of-a-kind features that make it one of the most desirable and legendary coins in existence. And as always, the most exciting part of this story is that the 1958 D wheat penny is a coin that millions of people handled without thinking twice, a coin that was produced in huge numbers and circulated across the country in everyday transactions. Yet among those ordinary pieces one coin emerged so unusual, so extraordinary, and so packed with rare errors that it has become one of the most valuable coins in history. So let's take a closer look and understand why this 1958 D penny is worth $90 million, what kinds of errors and mistakes it carries, and what possibilities and stories make it such a prized possession for collectors. Because when you break down the details, you begin to see why this coin is unlike anything else in the world of numismatics, starting with the context of the 1958 wheat penny itself, which was one of the last years of the beloved Lincoln wheat cent series that had run from 1909 until 1958 before the design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959. So 1958 represents the very end of an era in American coinage, and the Denver Mint, which struck the 1958 D pennies, produced hundreds of millions of them that year, meaning that most examples are extremely common and worth only a few cents today. But what makes this story so special is that out of that massive production run, one coin came out so dramatically flawed and so astonishingly rare that it has become worth far more than anyone could have imagined. And the first thing to know about this coin is that it is a double die error of the most dramatic kind, because on the obverse the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1958 all show clear, bold doubling that is visible to the naked eye, making it instantly recognizable as a double die, and double dies are some of the most famous and sought-after errors in coin collecting, with the 1955 double die penny being legendary and worth huge sums, but the 1958 D double die penny is even more extraordinary because examples of dramatic double dies from the Denver Mint are far rarer, and this coin takes rarity to a whole new level because not only is it doubled but it also displays additional errors that make it absolutely unique, because alongside the double die there is also an off-center strike, where the design is shifted by about 20%, leaving part of the planchette blank while still keeping the date and mint mark fully visible, and off-center errors are collectible on their own. But when you combine them with a bold double die, you get something that is essentially unheard of, and the rarity continues with the fact that this coin was struck on the wrong planchette, a transitional error that makes it even more desirable, because instead of being struck on the usual copper alloy penny planchette of 1958, it was mistakenly struck on a foreign coin planchette intended for a silver-colored coin, which not only gives the penny a unique weight and metallic appearance but also makes it one of the rarest wrong planchette errors known, and collectors prize wrong planchette errors above almost anything else because they are such clear indicators of something going wrong during the minting process. And the story of how this could have happened is fascinating, because in the Denver Mint at the time foreign coinage was occasionally produced, and it's entirely possible that a leftover planchette intended for another country's coinage found its way into the presses and was struck with the Lincoln wheat cent dies, creating this incredible rarity. And then to add even more layers of uniqueness, this 1958 D wheat penny also shows die cracks on both the obverse and reverse, raised lines of metal caused by the dies themselves beginning to fracture under pressure, and these die cracks form dramatic patterns across Lincoln's portrait and through the wheat stalks on the reverse, almost like lightning bolts frozen into the design, which not only gives the coin extra character but also makes it visually distinct from any other coin. And to top it all off, there are lamination errors visible on the surface, where impurities in the metal caused parts of the coin's surface to peel and flake in jagged textures, which only adds to the uniqueness and collectible appeal of the piece. So now you have a coin that is a double die, off-center strike, struck on the wrong planchette, with die cracks and lamination errors, all in one, and that combination is practically unheard of. A once-in-a-lifetime coin that simply should not exist. And when you think about the odds of all those errors converging on a single coin, it is so improbable that it almost feels like fate intended this coin to be created as a treasure for future generations to marvel at. And that is why this coin is valued so highly, because rarity is everything in the world of collectibles. And when you have uniqueness combined with a legendary error type, combined with multiple additional mistakes, you get a coin that is literally priceless. And the $90 million valuation is not just about the metal or the errors but about the story, the myth, the fact that this coin is almost certainly unique and will never be replicated. And that kind of uniqueness drives collectors to pay extraordinary sums, because Owning such a coin is like owning a piece of history unlike any other, and the possibilities of how this coin might have circulated before being discovered are fascinating to imagine. Maybe it passed through a few hands and went unnoticed. Maybe it sat in a change jar for decades. Or maybe it was spotted right away by an observant collector who realized its strangeness. But however it was discovered, once it was authenticated and graded by experts, its fame skyrocketed, and the numismatic community immediately recognized it as one of the greatest rarities of all time, and its reputation has only grown over the years as more people learn about its existence. And when collectors and investors compete for something this rare, the price inevitably climbs to astronomical levels, and that's how we arrive at the $90 million figure, which might sound shocking for a penny but makes perfect sense when you understand just how unique this coin truly is, and what makes it even more exciting is the possibility that other great discoveries could still be out there, because if a coin like this could exist, who's to say there aren't other rare era coins waiting to be found in old jars, boxes, or coin collections tucked away in attics and basements? And that's part of the thrill of coin collecting, that sense of treasure hunting, the idea that life-changing discoveries might be hiding in plain sight. And the 1958 D-Wheat penny worth $90 million embodies that thrill better than almost any other coin, reminding us that imperfection can be more valuable than perfection, that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that even the smallest, humblest objects can carry the biggest stories. And as we think about this coin, it also serves as an inspiration to collectors everywhere to pay attention, to look closely at their change, to learn about minting errors, and to never assume that something is worthless just because it looks ordinary, because history has proven again and again that extraordinary rarities are often found where no one expects them, and this 1958 D-Wheat penny will forever stand as proof of that. A coin that turned a minting accident into a treasure, a coin that represents the very best of what numismatics is all about, and a coin that will continue to captivate imaginations and inspire collectors for generations to come, making it one of the most iconic and unforgettable coins in history, worth $90 million not just in monetary terms but in the inspiration, fascination, and legacy it carries.